All right, you just hammered a little snack. You feeling refueled and ready for another round?
So ready.
So ready.
So ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Fired up. Fired up.
You had 3 raw carrots.
3 raw carrots. And
Not
I
even
got,
peeled.
Yeah.
It's like you're a horse.
No, I generally don't peel my carrots because I'm just like, I can't be bothered. But then my kids, in the off chance that they will have a carrot, they absolutely need it peeled. Otherwise, they'd be like, that's gross. I won't eat that. And so, like, I'll peel a carrot. I've peeled carrots for them recently. Mm-hmm. They haven't eaten them, and then I've eaten them instead. A peeled carrot is way better than a not peeled carrot. It's like the first, like, touch of the carrot to your mouth is actually, like, really flavorful instead of just, like, gritty and just, like, not as good.
Do you ever take your raw broccoli and pare off the really dense part of the stalk, the tough part of the stalk?
It's been a long time since I've done
It's pretty special when you take that extra minute to do that.
I used to love broccoli stalks.
Yeah.
My mom would make broccoli for us when we were kids, and she would always, she wasn't buying it pre-cut. She would just lop off the big old stalk and then cut off the wood, the wood.
Yeah. The wood, yeah. I learned that from Marcella Hazan. She's like my Italian grandmama cooking idol.
God, there's a lot of Italian stuff going on in my life right now.
Yeah, I know. I finally got you on that Duolingo.
Dude, well, it's very,
What's
very
your streak?
Shameful, but it's 13-day streak.
13 days?
Well, I mean, I'm in the 2-week trial, and I'm one day from going to the full paid version. Yeah, you've got 688-day streak.
Boom.
My kids keep asking, what language does Satya learn on Duolingo?
Français.
That's what you focus on mainly?
I do French, yeah, but I mean, I'm picking up a little Swedish now just to refresh myself for our trip.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but mostly just French. Yeah, just French. Sometimes I do the music for fun. There's a music part of it where you can play little songs. It's kind of satisfying.
Have not dipped my toe into that one yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just learning how to shop for clothes right now, mainly.
Oh, well, that's super important.
Obvi, especially if you're going to Italy.
Yeah.
Although they haven't taught me the vocab for like sexy underwear. I'm learning how to buy backpacks and, boots.
Is that the main thing you want from Italy? Sexy underwear?
I'm just remembering back to when I was like in high school, went to Italy. Like I was with a bunch of like other teenagers, and we went to like the Armani, like shop in Rome, like right near the Spanish Steps, and like one of the guys like tried on these like really expensive like boxer briefs, and he bought them, and it was just funny. I'm like, that's what I want to be able to go and speak Italian enough to be able to
get yourself some sexy underwear.
Very sexy underwear.
I'm sure they would hook you up.
All right, so great segue into our topic of the day.
Yeah.
I've been spending a bit of time with some personal coaching clients lately, really trying to just refine what is the process by which you take, somebody who says like they raise their hand, they're like, look, I'm ready and I just don't know how, but I'm ready to put the work in. I'm committed to this goal. I want to lose body fat.
Yeah.
Or I want to just change
my life, change my whole thing.
Once upon a time as a coach, I used to be like, that scares me. Like, I don't know really how to approach that with you. Like, I mean, I've done it in the past, but like, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have a structure to say like, you do this and then you're good, and it's still not like that today. I can't just be like, hey, well, this is what you do. Everything's gonna be fine. But instead it's like, here's what you need to do. It's hard. Everybody is going to arrive at their own way to do it. But these are the things that have to be in place for you to succeed. For you to lose body fat, to maintain muscle, to build muscle. Like, these are the inputs. These are the things that we track. When we have this information, then we can really create your plan. But we got to establish the information first. Then we create your plan, and your plan is going to involve every aspect of who you are, your history, and what you bring to the table today.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 + 2 still equals 4. It's just that we got to figure out how you can get a couple 2s in your life so you can get to the 4.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And that's just the way I always think about it is like the plan is like very, hard data. It's like it works every time when the data is there. And then it's like, okay, you start the plan and then the real work is like everything else. Like everything from your culture and your emotions and your mental state and your stress levels and your rhythm and your knowledge of how to grocery shop and like all the things.
Yeah, everything you're saying is just like spot on. I think just for the listener, let's like establish the vocabulary that we're going to use, which is you create your own plan, which is unique to you and all the things that you just mentioned, in order to execute on the formula for success.
Yeah.
Right. So like there's a formula like 2 + 2 = 4.
Yes.
So we're trying to get to 4. And 2 + 2 is one way to do it. There's also 3 + 1. There's 4 + 0. There's 3.5 + 0.5. There's, I don't know.
1 + 1 + 1 +
10 divided by 2.5. There's you can
2
go into
2.
You can go into multiple. You can go into a lot of different
Yeah.
plans to get to the outcome.
Yeah.
And that is what I like to. I kind of start with people establishing like, this is the outcome that we want. How we arrive there is through these multiple inputs. How you figure out your plan to get to those inputs, we don't know yet what it's going to look like. But it's not a mystery. It's not I don't know why this isn't working. Right?
Or it just doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm different.
Yes.
It's like you certainly are different. You bet your ass you're different. That's why there's a million ways to get to the end result. But if you take all of your inputs and you plug them into the formula still makes sense. It still works.
Yeah.
It's still real. It's just we don't know what's going to be your best path to get there.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what, when I get DMs from people that are like, hey, I really like, could you give me some help? Like what's the thing I changed to get to the result? And as a coach, you could be like, change this, just throw them a bone.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, all right, yeah, try that. That seems like it could work. I mean, you just hit me up in the DMs. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. This isn't a paid consult. Like, I'm going to give you the best bit of advice that I can, but I don't know anything about you. On the other end of the spectrum, it's like, I got a personal coaching client. They pay me $800 a month. I consult with them every week. I track with them all of their metrics and their progress. I give them very specific things to do. Like now we're after, not on day 1, but on day like 60, I can coach the shit out of them. Like I know a lot, on day 1, I knew a decent amount. Day 30, working with Nate on his fitness goals, we're many months into this thing. I know I'm much more aligned to what he needs to keep the thing going.
Yeah.
Versus the person who DMs me, every month and says, "Hey, what should I do about this?" It's like, you could do that. It's like, "Hey, should I change my macros on a rest day?" You could, or you don't have to. Like, I can't go into the depth of the formula with these little periodic, random, sporadic touch points. And even if I'm seeing somebody every single day, if I live with the person, my wife, I live with her, like there's times where maybe she asks me like, "Hey, what should I be doing?" And I'm like, "Well, you haven't given me all the information yet. Like I live with you, but I still don't know what you're doing in the hours that I'm not with you. And I need to know that stuff. Otherwise I can't give you a really good answer." Like I will periodically say like, she's like, what should I do here? And I'm like, "Well, did you track any of that stuff?" And she's like, "Well, no, I didn't do that yet." I'm like, "Okay, like, then I'll give you the best answer I can now." But, and then enough times goes by and I've said it enough times. She's like the other day she asked, she's like, "Wait, let me guess. I should probably track something." I'm like, "You could," it would be helpful.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then she did that. She's going through that process now. And she's like, "Oh man, like, I'm so glad I started tracking this, because now I realize like why I was like, where I was under eating, getting frantic, feeling dysregulated, and then not having good, making the best choices at the right time. And, it's like, okay, now we're making progress in a way that is more objective, less like how you feel about this, or like, hey, what about this thing? Or should I do that? And that's really the theme of working with somebody and working on something with like, I want more certainty about what the outcomes can look like. Well, we need to get really measurable about what we're doing so that we can have more predictable outcomes. And because we're humans, we're very complex systems. There's never going to be like a perfect, like everything's going to go exactly to plan, but it's less of a mystery than many people want to make it out to be.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. When something's hard, it's like, most people try and fail at the body fat loss thing. So they like to think like, well, it's impossible to know how to do it. Like if we knew how to do it, then we'd be all successful. It's like, well, no, it's actually kind of a little bit of both. It's like, we know how to do it, but because we're human creatures living in a very different in very different environments with lots of stresses, like it's like the hardest math equation to ever learn how to do, but it exists. It's like, the theory of relativity exists, and somebody figured it out, like, and created formulas for it, and 99.99999% of the human population will never understand it, because it's just another level of, cognitive function that most people don't have. And I'm not saying that fat loss is on that level, but it can be confusing and hard because it's all of those things.
Yeah. So there's the formula, and then there's everything else that someone is going to come up against. When you're working with a client who's like, hey, like, I don't know how to do this thing. Like, help me arrive at the certainty to like start heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you really need to dig in with them?
I mean, on a surface level, I start to just make sure that they understand what are the inputs that drive this formula. And those are relatively simple. It's how you're moving your body, what you're putting into your body, and then not just movement and eating food, but how are you training your muscles? Are you training your muscles? Are you lifting weights? Are you doing something to basically stimulate muscle growth or preserve muscle mass? And so I generally track that with clients through as precise food logging as possible. So like, not just like weighing and not just like general, like, okay, I'm sticking to certain foods, or I'm like, we got to measure it. We got to weigh the food. We got to like do detailed tracking. We're going to learn this at a deep level first. And once you've had success and you've learned over a period of time, then we can pull back on sort of the demand of like, you got to weigh and measure every single thing that you eat. Well, I start with like, we're going to learn that. We're going to do the hard thing because you said to me that you want this goal, you're committed, and you just don't want to waste your time. Then I'm like, well, then don't waste your time just being like, I'm going quote unquote low carb and not tracking anything. That is, or like, I'm just eating clean. These are common things I hear. I have a client who I just consulted with like within the last 3 weeks. When they onboarded with me, it was like, I eat clean, I do this. I've been using my MyFitnessPal, like I track stuff. Something's not working. And I'm like, okay, like the old me, the old coach Marcus years and years ago would have been like, oh God, this scares me. Sounds like this person's doing everything right and they can't figure it out. Oh, like they must be one of those mystery clients that like have a hormone functional problem, or they must, now I'm like, okay, like I'll take what you're saying, but then let me dig into this with you a little bit further and see what's really going on. Like, okay, they're tracking in their MyFitnessPal. All right, cool. They're hitting their macros roughly. All right, hey, so it's so-and-so client, Jeff, walk me through this first meal of the day. All right, I see you had eggs. I see you had this, and I see you had that. Cool. Like, how'd you cook your eggs? Put a little butter in the pan. Cool. And then on you had, it says you had bread here. Like, was that toast? Did you have toast with it? Yeah. I'm like, oh, did you put anything on the bread? Yeah, I put a little butter on the bread, a little butter on my toast. Okay, cool. And then you had this. How'd you measure that? I just scooped it out. Okay. So your meal that you wrote down here says you had 3 eggs, 2 pieces of bread, and a banana. I'm like, there's no butter accounted for on here at all. How much butter did you have? It's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, was it like half a tablespoon of butter? Was it like 30 grams of butter? Meaning, was
a stick of butter?
Was it like 80 calories or 240 calories? Like, and if that happened here, plus you just sort of said you had a banana, and we all know we can walk into any store, you can see a banana that's
ginormous.
Yeah, like I will pull a banana out. I weigh a banana when I eat it. These bananas in this batch were all around 100 grams. These ones are 170 grams.
Right.
Like, you're having 1.7 of the other, it's like you're doubling what you're having. So it was like an unlock to him. He's like, oh wow, yeah, like I got to write that. I'm like, yeah, you do, right? And then so now in that consultation, in that new awareness, he's still tracking his food, but now we can start to actually trust with more accuracy the information that's coming in. I still don't know if what he's doing and how much he's eating right now and tracking and the projected numbers that we're after are going to actually yield fat loss, but I can now at least say that over the next 3 weeks, we're going to have better information.
Yeah.
To make a decision as to how we should change course or not, or just stay the course. The next part is how much you're moving. And I like step counts more than I like how often are you training. Mm-hmm. Because even if somebody's falling persist and they're doing pump condition 3 days a week, the effort that they give in the gym, the amount of warm-up sets, high effort sets, low effort sets, the way that they push themselves in the conditioning, like it can vary a lot in terms of like how much energy did that person actually expend.
Yes.
And furthermore, the training that you do is always a smaller percentage of your total activity over the course of a week than something like your steps.
Yeah.
So I start people tracking steps, and I start them tracking their food, and then I start them tracking their body weight every single day. Not like every other day, not once a week, definitely not once a week, and definitely nothing less frequent than that, because they need to learn through the activity of doing this every single day that weight fluctuations are the norm.
Yeah.
Up and down, up and down, up and down, like just a jagged line of data.
Yeah.
If you do it long enough, you will see what the trend is. Is it a jagged line that's just staying kind of level, meaning your average body weight's not changing?
Yep.
Or is it a jagged line that's kind of trending down, or is it a jagged line that's trending up? And that you can only see that if you've done it days and days and days, weeks and weeks and weeks, and even months. Mm-hmm. You can't see that day to day. If somebody weighs themselves on Monday and then they weigh themselves on the next Monday, because weight fluctuations happen every day, even if you're eating the same thing, taking the same number of steps, following the same schedule. You know, I'm looking over at Nate right now because he's very robotic about his approach right now to fat loss. And one day he'll be in at one weight, and then the next day nothing's changed and he goes up by 2 pounds. And then the next day he's down by 3 pounds. And so imagine that Nate takes his weight on one of those days where he's down 3 pounds. And then next Monday he takes his weight and he's on the upswing. He's on the 2 pounds up. And so he feels like, oh shoot, like I just did all this work and I just gained 4 pounds in a week.
Right.
And that's the only data he has. He's going to question what he's doing. He's maybe going to have an emotional reaction. He's going to, maybe if this is a trigger for him, he's going to go and binge on some food. And he's going to be like, well, screw this. Like, what's the point? Nothing works. This is a black box. There's just a mystery. There's no formula to fat loss. I can't trust anything. May as well go have Indian food today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because my feelings and my emotions are hurt right now. I don't trust myself. I don't trust this thing. And I'm just going to be this way my whole life. And so I'm going to eat away my feelings. So daily weight tracking, daily step tracking, track your steps. And I only want the steps, you know, in the early stages to sort of get a baseline of what is this person doing. Mm-hmm. After a week, hey, you average 8,000 steps a day. Okay, great. You want to lose body fat? One lever that we can pull is to increase that to 10,000. We can just up it by 2,000. I want to give you a realistic goal that you can hit, because it's only going to take you an extra 20 to 25 minutes of walking each day to hit that from what you're already doing. Same thing with the food. The first 3 weeks that my client was tracking food, I had all this data. It wasn't adding up. Something wasn't right. I asked him, hey, what are you doing? We upgrade. Okay. That first 3 weeks of data, throw it away. It's not useful. Okay. I actually had this conversation with a client today where I basically was like, and sadly, it's like, hey, your first 7 weeks of data that we have together, like, it's not helpful. Like, we can't use it. I don't have any certainty that that's happening. Like, what you're doing and what you're tracking it's not working.
Yeah.
Nothing's right. So we're going to start this thing again the next 4 weeks. Here's the new expectation. Here's the new way we're going to do it. Are you committed? Of course he's committed. He doesn't want to like be wasting his time and my time and his money and all the things. So, okay, we're going to do this a different way.
Yeah.
My hope, of course, is that at the end of 4 weeks, we have better information. And usually when people get more precise and they start doing it the way that we want them to do it in terms of tracking, they start to see results just by changing that behavior.
Yes.
Which is the case for the client one of the clients I'm just mentioning, you know, the butter client. Oh, the butter thing, I didn't think about that. And then it was like, hey, what's a good snack to have? And I'm like, well, what are you having? He's like, I'm having, you know, peanut butter on my apples. I'm like, well, how are you measuring that peanut butter? And then we talked about, like, you know, really being precise with high calorie foods that, you know, you can easily overeat. Makes that change. You know, he's hitting those like daily weigh-ins at like 211, 212, 210, 209, 211, kind of just hovering.
Yeah.
And then it's like we had that consult 2 weeks later. You know, today he weighed in at 203. It's like things started to just move in the right direction. He's sending me messages like, dude, I hit 205 today. I'm like, I down to 204. I'm like, down to 203. I'm like, sweet. Let's keep it rolling. We're still collecting data. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we get to the end of 4 weeks with him and I recheck in and he's lost 15 pounds in 4 weeks, he's going to feel stoked, but I'm going to be like, dude, we need to increase your calories a little bit. You're moving too fast through this. You've lost 3 to 4 pounds a week. And that's very aggressive. You're probably losing some muscle right now.
Yeah.
So again, it's just data that's coming in, but it's got to be this consistent flow of it that is accurate and honest. So that's where we start. It's steps, body weight daily, and then tracking food. And, you know, I do want to, and the other layer that I mentioned was like, what is this person doing to preserve muscle mass in a fat loss or in a weight loss phase? So those are like, how much weight training are they doing and how much protein are they eating? So I start to maybe get more prescriptive about that early on. Whereas the other things, I'm just like, I'm not telling you how many steps to do. I'm not telling you how many calories yet to eat. I'm not telling you any of that stuff. I just want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
But I will probably early on sort of emphasize the importance of like, because you're trying to lose body weight or lose body fat, the path towards that is one where the body goes into breakdown mode. You want to be breaking down fat, not muscle. Mm-hmm. Because if you just break down both, then you're going to lose weight, but you're not going to be feeling more toned, strong, look better, feel better, have all your function.
You're going to be deflated.
You're going to be deflated. You're just going to be a smaller version of your old self. And we want, a smaller version of a new you that's muscular and vibrant and energetic and feels great and has a high metabolism, all the things.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay, we got to get you lifting weights. And obviously most people everyone that's working with me generally they're doing persist, or doing FBB, they're lifting weights. If they're really new to the thing, I will gear them more towards the weight training than the conditioning stuff. Cause I'm like, hey, you're in a fat loss phase. Let's use the resistance training to keep your muscle on.
Yeah.
And then I'll make sure they have a protein target that fits within their calorie budget and is close enough to their body weight that I can sort of feel sure, like, hey, you're hitting your protein that we need you to hit.
Yeah.
And that's just a valuable thing to keep muscle on if you're trying to lose weight. It's a valuable thing to build muscle, but again, somebody who's in a fat loss phase generally isn't building a lot of muscle. They're trying to maintain muscle and lose body fat at the same time.
Do you think the biggest obstacles for people are around the technique of gathering precise, accurate data, or more on the psychological side?
I think there's a big technique component to it. Understanding what does accurate data look like in the food department.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to get your steps tracked. It's like,
Yeah.
you're like, well, my phone says I did this many steps. I'm like, do you have your phone on every moment of the day? It's like, no. It's like, well, then get a watch, get a pedometer, get something that's on your body. So we can kind of fix the technique of data collection on steps very quickly. We can fix the technique of data collection on body weight. Same time, same environment, same place every day. Wake up, go pee, weigh yourself. Wake up, go poop, weigh yourself. Whatever your thing is. It's like, weigh with your clothes on or weigh with your clothes off, but do it the same way every day.
Yeah.
Just do it the same way. With food and food consumption, this is a very, very difficult one. And not everyone does it the same, even people that are highly accurate.
Yeah.
There's still some nuance and subtle variations of how people do it. There's sort of acceptable variation, and then there's like, hey, this is just inaccurate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just had a handful of something. It's like inaccurate. You can get good at it over time. You can get consistent over time with it. But in the initial intake, phases of this, highly inaccurate.
Yeah.
And not weighing things, but just sort of like eyeballing or using, volume measurements. So a cup of strawberries, or a cup of oatmeal versus 60 grams of oatmeal or 60 grams of strawberries. 60 grams of oatmeal is always going to be the same. A cup of oatmeal will not always be the same, depending on the type of brand that you're using, depending on how you eyeball it, depending on whether it's, a day where you're pretty hungry and so you kind of generously scoop out the big cup of oatmeal, or a day where you're like not so hungry and you just kind of have a flat level scoop of oatmeal. So I think technique is hard. I also think there's a psychological component to it as well, where it's like there's oftentimes like a feeling of like resentment and pushback, like, is this really what I have to do to like be successful? I gotta like weigh all my
banana,
shit. I gotta put my like vegetables on a scale. Like, why am I doing this? Like, all these people are like fit and not fat, and they don't do this. Why do I have to do it? And it's like, you don't have to do any of this. But what you've done in the past isn't working. And there's a phase of like re-education and raising awareness that you're primed to go through to get a huge return on the investment of learning. This is science, and it's hard. It's the act of doing it may feel like contrived and not like normal human behavior, but something about the normal human behavior and the normal natural way of things that you feel like you're entitled to have as a human, which you may be, it's not been accessible to you and it's not working.
Yeah.
So let's try something else. And by dedicating a lot of time to it or a lot of attention to it when it's hard at the beginning and establishing an understanding, that may be what you need to have the freedom in the future to do it the way that you want to do it, which is with less precision and still have good outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To answer that question, it's a lot of technique and a lot of technical understanding of how to do the thing and then learning how to do it. There's some emotional and psychological pushback. And then there's lifestyle contributing factors, like, how do I do this thing, this measuring thing, and this data tracking when I'm on the road, when I'm traveling, when I have to go out to work dinners and I can't like weigh and measure my stuff at the table. That's just not going to work. I can't bring a Tupperware. How do I approach that? You know? And, or like, hey, I want to start having other things. Like, how do I fit that in? And we just address those as they come up. So, you know, somebody who wants to go down this path, I don't recommend it when you're in a very chaotic season of life. Yeah. You know, it's like, it might not be the time. It's funny. I have these two clients, they're twin brothers. I started with. One was in he was kind of in a good point to start this thing. He's been having a lot of success. The other one, chaotic month, very chaotic month. Like illnesses in the family, everyone's throwing up. You know, that's 10 days just gone. Yeah. Right? Then they took a vacation. Oh no, then he threw out his back. So he's all like, can't move, you know, he's getting locked up. Then they take a family vacation to Hawaii. He's not going to, you know, he's going to the Disney in Hawaii. Like he's not going to be weighing, measuring. It's like, that's not the time for that. Yeah. Then his wife's traveling for a week and he's like on deck with 3 kids, you know, shuttling them around, doing all the things. And then he has another work trip and it's like, okay, so a month has gone by. You know, 2 identical twins kind of starting at the same place, just different like seasons of the year. And you know, it wasn't the right time to ramp this thing up. Yeah. And I'm like, don't beat yourself up. I'm not beating, you know, I'm not thinking you're anything less than you are. Like, it's just, that's where it is. And I'm here to support you whenever you feel ready to re-engage in this. Because you show up ready to do it. There's no way you can force somebody down this path. Right. It's just not, this is a level of, you know, buy-in that has to be there if you want to, but those people who are bought in, where I feel so comfortable and confident is that nowadays it's like, I'm not afraid to be like, I don't know how to help you. Like you seem to be that. It's a black box. Yeah, it's a black box. Like you're just the person that you must have like a hormone thing going on like that. I just can't, no one will ever understand. It's like your metabolism's broken. It's like, no, that's not it. So yeah, the identical twin situation is kind of fascinating. It is totally. Okay. Well, what is there any other, so I think maybe there's different iterations of this. And it's like, I started with maybe like a half a dozen, you know, to 10 clients all simultaneously that are on this journey. We're doing this, you know, body composition or recomposition or this sort of like objective measurable approach to changing things. And each person having their own unique, you know, life circumstances makes it a different conversation with every person. There's a foundation of tracking certain things, making sure we're getting good data, then being able to take that data and make adjustments based upon that relative to their goal. But the things that are obstacles for them are very different. This person's got an emotional, you know, history around food. This person is, you know, kind of like ADHD with like their life. And it's like, whoa, you want me to get this detailed about something? It's like, yeah, we have to work our way through that. This person's having a hard time even having the appetite to get in the number of things that we want them to get in. So we have to talk strategies on how to increase their carbs, you know, in unique ways. And then this person has gone, you know, this other client is like, I am working, like they're struggling to feel like they're enough as a human. And they're putting so much stock into just like, I'm working so much harder than I ever have. And then it's like, and I'm so proud of you for that. And the numbers have not changed. And I know you want to, feel good about yourself, but on the other side, you want to see your body change. If we get to 6 months together and nothing has changed, you're going to be very disappointed. So let me give you some honest feedback. Like something's off, something that you've been doing is not all the way there. I applaud all of the work that you have done. You've improved in these ways. but something's wrong, something's off.
Yeah.
And it's like that honest feedback from somebody who they trust and they can take it from was like, you're right. I just have not been doing that thing as well as I should be.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm committed for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great process to go through as a coach. It's been, I think, really informative and enlightening for the clients. And, you know, it's something that, again, it's not for everybody. But if you're like really committed and ready and you're like, I really just want to, I'm tired of messing around. Like I want to get there and something hasn't been adding up. I've kind of just been struggling, you know, an educated set of eyes that helps you navigate this data tracking and outcomes thing can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything to leave them with?
Get that data.
Get that data. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, hit us in the DMs for questions, ideas, topics that you'd like to hear about. We've been a little bit dry on podcast topics from our
audience.
From our
Haven't
audience.
gotten the DMs lately.
No, we have not. So slide up in there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.